I certainly don't say thank you because you have the, opportunity to see me. You're not here because of me, and I know that. And I'm glad you're not. And I also would suggest to you this, that fundamentally you're not here because of a conference. Right? That's not why you're here either. But you know what I love is why you're here. Why does Kim and this team put on this extraordinary thing? Because fundamentally, ladies and gentlemen, it's not okay out there, is it? It's not. And I'm not telling you something you don't know. Your heart confirms it, your social media confirms it, but the question, the challenge is, so what? What do we do? What do we do in light of this world in need? I want to ask you to do me a favor. Just shut your eyes for a second. With your eyes shut, I want you to do me a favor. Raise your hand if you think that this world needs to be changed. Raise your hand. Now put your hands down. Keep your eyes shut and don't look left and right. Raise your hand just once more time if this. Raise your hand if you genuinely believe that your life can actually make a difference in this world. Just raise it if you believe that. Now put your hands down. Open your eyes again. I don't know this for sure, but I have a guess that my life is a little bit like yours. You know, people tell me that I come from Australia. That's what my mom and dad tell me, and I believe them, but I have no memories of Australia. I left Australia when I was 3. I spent 7 years in the Philippines, 9 in Hong Kong, 2 in the States, 1 in China, 1 in the States, 2 in Hong Kong, 2 in the States, 10 in Hong Kong. And if you add that together, you get my age. Yeah, which is 17. Yeah, amazing. But during the course of that time, my family had the privilege, like I would guess many of you have had also, to travel. I had the privilege of looking at this world and seeing many beautiful things in this world, but as well as seeing the beautiful things, I also saw a lot of need, a lot of poverty. And can I ask you this question? What do you feel? You see hurt people, and again, when you see hurt people, what does it cause you to want to do? You want to be able to respond. But can I ask, do you always know how? Gentleman over there, blue shirt, black, yeah, what do you feel when you see poverty? Big voice. Or refugees in need, what do you feel? Depressed, saddened, good, why? Why do you feel saddened? Because they're real lives. Because they're real lives that make a difference, but we have to do something to change them. And you sometimes feel like, I'm grateful for my bed and my fridge, but what do I do? And more than that, I would guess if I pushed you deeply, some of you would feel angry. You'd say it shouldn't be this way. Shouldn't. There's something wrong with the system that is making it this way, but what do I do? How do I change the system? And for my family and all of the travels that we did, similar to you, these feelings were the same. We didn't know what to do in response. And so you know what we did? We'd give like a coin or a sandwich and we'd just keep walking. Not because we were mean people, we did. What do you do? And I would say this, that if you peeled open our hearts, that I wouldn't have said this to you with my words, but I think if you'd peeled open my heart during that season, during those moments, you would have seen maybe this thinking, that if I just give a sandwich, if I give a coin, and if I just walk fast enough, maybe those feelings will go away. But we began to see so much need that we couldn't walk fast enough. But we still didn't know what to do. And so we spoke to NGOs, we spoke to charities in Asia where we were living, and we said to these charities, how do we serve you? What do we do? And do you know what they said to us? It was the most liberating, life-giving thing. They said this to us. They said, be you. And we said to these charities, what? What does that mean? That's not helpful. What does it mean, be you? And they're like, they said this, my father is an accountant. My mother is in PR. And they said to us, we don't have you. We don't have high-level accounting people. We don't have high-level PR people. Can you be you and help us serve the poor? And this was life-giving. Because, you know, if they'd asked us to become someone else, if I had to become Mother Teresa, that'd be hard. You know, she's a woman, I'm a guy, she's short, she's dead. You know, I can't. But if I can be me, I could serve. No? Well, maybe tonight's your first night. Enjoy it. My family had dinner. We were eating dinner and the phone rings, and this lady we'd helped in China, this lady called us and she said to us, hey, good evening. And we said, hey. She said, I'm really sorry to bother you. We're like, that's okay. She said, but I got a problem. We're like, all right, ma'am, what is it? The lady called us and we said, ma'am, what? I mean, we're a mother, a father, 2 kids. Yeah, how are we supposed to help 2 million people? And the lady said to us, she said, truly, I don't know. All I know is this. I didn't either. Went to our cupboard. We started counting T-shirts. We were a little short. We thought, what do we do? Went to go see, we said we'd try and help. We went to go see my godmother in hospital. We're just standing there visiting her. And as we were standing there, we overheard 2 women talk. I didn't know them. One lady right beside the other said, hey, I got all these things I want to give to, like, poor people, but, like, I don't know any poor people. Like, do you know any poor people? And the other lady's like, oh, I don't know any poor people. And we're listening. We're like, oh, excuse me, but we know, like, 1 or 2 million poor people. Do you want to? So these ladies called us. They had 19 boxes of clothing, just between the 2 of them. We sent that to China. We sent it off. We thought we were done. And the lady in China called us back. She said, the quality was good, but not the quantity. I need more. So the second time we went to my old high school, they had 72 boxes, and then 136, and then 248, and then it was like a hole open in the heavens, and just stuff poured in, and it was nuts. You know a funky thing about Hong Kong? Lots of cool things about Hong Kong, but a funky thing about Hong Kong where we live is that Hong Kong does not have a very big second-hand culture. You know, it's not really our thing. And so suddenly we began to get crazy, crazy phone calls. We get phone calls from a bank, and the bank says to us, hey, we're getting rid of our old computers. Do you need 500 computers? Right? And if someone offers you 500 computers and you're a charity, what do you say? Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes. Yeah. And so we went to this bank to pick these 500 computers, only to discover that the bank's definition of a computer, the CPU, right? No monitor, no keyboard, no mouse, just 500 CPUs. And we thought, what the heck? Thank you. What do you do with 500 CPUs? I mean, you can build an igloo, right? But what can you? Thank you. So we brought these home. We didn't know what to do. And then 2 weeks later, another bank called us. They said, hey, we've just moved into our new offices. They're bigger, but our desks are smaller, and our monitors, they're just too fat. And we're like, no, you have fat monitors. And they're like, yeah, but we don't want to give you any CPUs. Do you need hundreds of monitors and keyboards? Now, we are not the world's most intelligent people, but hundreds of CPUs, hundreds of monitors. And where we are today is an old army base. We've got about 7 acres, 7 soccer fields of land with hundreds of containers that we ship to about 100 countries around the world. But you know, the problem, it was the world. But you could imagine 5 other charities around them were like, where did you get a free container that's got computers and so suddenly one shipment would mean many, many orders. So we sent another shipment and then many, many orders, another, and we ended up with 800 orders from 100 countries around the world. And we're looking at the World Bank. Do you know the World Bank in DC? So they were disposing at that time, upgrading their computers, and they were disposing, this is true, of 30 40-foot containers of computers. And so we're looking at all of these world's needs. We're looking at all of these world's resources, and we're thinking, you know, this is the age of the internet, right? People get married online. I didn't mean you, I was just gesturing, yeah. But congratulations, Tinder's awesome. Anyhow, so yeah. We thought there must be some kind of humanitarian version of eBay, right, where charities and businesses can find each other. People can say what they need, others can say what they have. So we sat down and looked for this online platform, but for the life of us, we couldn't find it. So we went to the UN in Geneva, and we said to the UN, maybe we're just internet losers, but why can't we find a global platform that does this? And they said to us, the reason you can't find it is that it doesn't exist, but it's needed. Could you make it? And so the second piece of our work is this online platform. It's like online dating, but between the businesses and the charities. And so this website, Global Hand, it went live. And then at that point, the tsunami occurred, the first Indian Ocean tsunami. And there was a huge disconnect because the corporate sector, this was the beginning of CSR, corporate social responsibility, and the companies were beginning to want to use their skills to help. The charities were asking them to do that, but when the tsunami hit, the companies were offering their stuff, and it was just too much and too hard. And so the charity said, maybe just give us more money, but they're like, I thought you wanted a partnership. It brought tension. And so after tsunami, in London, Prince Charles met with the big UK NGOs, and in the US, Clinton met with the US-based ones, and said, we've stuffed up. We need a solution. Next time there's a disaster at this scale, we need an online platform that can link them together. And our website had just been finished at that time, and so we offered it to them, and the UN came back to us. Ban Ki-moon was the dude in charge at that time. And he came back and he emailed us, and he said, we know this. We know that addressing world need cannot be done in a siloed fashion. It cannot just be the UN doing our thing and local government doing their thing and businesses. We got to do it together. But he said the problem is businesses don't know how to reach the United Nations easily. Do you know, if I told you today there was another tsunami and I said to you, call the UN, and I give you my phone, who's the UN? I mean, we know about them and they're wonderful, but how do we reach them, and who is the right group to reach, and when do I reach them, and what's the phone number? We don't know. And so Ban Ki-moon said to us, could you make a copy of your website for the UN homepage so there's one portal that all businesses can use to reach all outward-facing agencies, funds, and programs? And so we built, and we still manage, the UN's business engagement platform for them. So if you go to business.un.org, there's this website. It looks like the UN. It smells UN-y, but it's still managed by us. And so that was the second piece of our work. But then we moved to this old army base where we are now based, and this crazy thing happened. A very senior person in the Hong Kong government came to us as we moved into this old army base, and she said to us, she said, do you know my vision for Crossroads? And we said, ma'am, if you're having visions, please tell us. That's probably, yeah. She said, my vision is that you would be a charity that we can bring foreign tourists and foreign diplomats to. And we said to this government official, we said, ma'am, why do tourists want to come? And she said, they don't want to come, but we want them to realize that Hong Kong is not merely entertainment and finance, but Hong Kong has soul. Can you please bring tourists to see our site? And we said, yes, ma'am, we can, but what do tourists need? I don't know anything about tourists. And so we spoke to a really smart touristy dude, and he said to us, he said, all tourists require 3 things. We're like, oh, I didn't, what are they? Number 1, they all need toilets because they pee. We're like, oh, I didn't think they. Number 2, he said, all tourists need drinks because that helps them to do number 1. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, good. But number 3, he said, the main job of all tourists in Hong Kong is shopping, so you must sell something. We're like, what? Because when people, when Timberland donates shoes to us, we don't sell them to the rich, we give them to the poor. We're like, well, what do we sell? And suddenly we realized in all the countries that we're serving, poor people were making stuff, but not enough people were buying it. And we thought, dude, we can buy from the poor, help the poor do their jobs, help them go to school, feed their kids, and at the same time help tourists do their job of shopping. And so do you know fair trade, the idea of fair trade? Big in the UK, big in the US, just beginning in Hong Kong. And we now have a shop and cafe. They are not big, but they are the biggest in Hong Kong. But the craziest piece, what happened next? 12 years ago, we had our 10th anniversary and we forgot. Okay, we're losers, right? We're out there, we're working, and suddenly one of our team's like, dude, aren't you 10? And my dad's an accountant, right? 1, 2, 3. Yes, we're 10. So we thought, well, we need to do something. What do we do? And in Asia, particularly in Hong Kong, usually for a big anniversary, charities have a 5-star hotel fundraising gala dinner, right? Like that. That's kind of how it rolls, which is cool if that's your thing. But the challenge for us in Crossroads, a weird thing about Crossroads, is that in Crossroads, none of us is salaried. None of us gets paid. We have about 70 people from 22 countries around the world. No one is paid. That's full-time. We have about 300 part-time people working in our place each week. They're not paid. I have a dog and I feed it, but it's not paid. And in that model, we had no money to do a 5-star event, but if I'm honest with you, even if I'd had the money, that's not where I wanted to spend it. So we asked this question, how can we use this moment to show Hong Kong why we serve, to show them our heart? And I love many things about Hong Kong, lots of things, but one of the things I really love is Cantonese. Does anyone here speak Cantonese? All right, there's our contingent. Okay, good. Can I ask you, one person who speaks Cantonese, stand up, just one person who speaks Cantonese. Don't worry if you don't know this word, but can I ask you, do you know the Chinese word, the Cantonese word for charity? Charity, 中文點講?
慈善.
So does you hear that? That's Cantonese. That's the Cantonese word for charity. But now listen to this. This is important. What is the Cantonese word for crazy?
黐線.
Good. And thank you. Yeah. And what I love is that the Cantonese word for charity, qixing, and the word for crazy, qixing, they are very close. And that's good because we're a qixing place. We're crazy. And our 10th anniversary rolled around. And instead of going to a 5-star hotel, we had this nuts idea. We thought, wouldn't it be awesome if we could bring CEOs from Hong Kong to Crossroads, and when they come, we'll take away their watch, their wallet, their cell phone, their iPad. We'll give them hammers, nails, and trash. We'll let them build slums. And then for 24 hours, I'll let them sleep on the ground, eat with their hands, make a road by breaking rocks, use pit toilets. Just for a moment, feel a tiny bit of what it's like for the people we serve every single day. And so we brought these CEOs out, and I thought they would kill me. But these CEOs, they were so moved, they came back and they said, I need my office to feel what I'm feeling, but I can't force them to do 24 hours of this. Do you have a 2 or 3 hour program that can help my office feel? And then principals began to bring teachers, teachers began to bring students, and then people said to us, look, that's not enough. Poverty is only one issue. What about refugees? What about HIV? What about blindness? What about the environment? What about disasters? What about these programs exploded? And it was at this point that the UN called us again. And the UN said to us, every year in Switzerland, there's this really big meeting. It's called the World Economic Forum. Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, anyone called Bill or with bills goes to that meeting. And then the UN said to us, they said, there's no way that we can bring all these world leaders and stick them in refugee camps. We can't. But we could bring the message to their meeting. And they said, is there any way that you could bring your refugee simulation to Switzerland so we can run it for people at the World Economic Forum? And I'm standing in Hong Kong on the phone thinking to myself, no, this is a prank phone call. You're not really the UN. Because our refugee simulation, we have soldiers, guns, landmines, barbed wire, lights, tents, sound. And I said to the United Nations, I said, you want me to import weapons to Switzerland? And they said to me, yes, it's a neutral country. I'm like, oh, all right. So we did. So we built this refugee simulation right beside the World Economic Forum. And you know, I thought to myself, we're kidding ourselves. You know, at the World Economic Forum, there are 3,000 people that attend. 3,000 people attend the World Economic Forum. It's 4 days long, and during those 4 days, there are more than 1,000 events. And we are 1,001 and weird. And I thought, no one's going to come. Who could we target? Who's already got a heart? And I thought, you know what, Richard Branson, you know Sir Richard Branson, the guy in charge of Virgin Airlines, he's kind of a teasing kind of guy, right? I thought he's probably game enough to, so we emailed him. Dear Sir Richard, you're kind of teasing, would you be willing to do this event? And then the next day, he emailed back, he said, Dear David, I'd love to, I'll see you on Friday, Richard. So Richard Branson rocks up. Then the next guy comes in. He is the most expensively dressed man I've ever seen. I'm like, oh, dude, who's this clown? His name tag popped out. He was the CEO and the chairman of Gucci. I'm like, oh, no wonder. And then the UN said to us, they said, would you mind if we asked the Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, would you mind if we asked him to do this program? And I'm like, dude, yeah, go ahead. But he's not going to have time, but by all means, ask him. And I don't know what magic happened in his office, but the email came back. Yes, the Secretary General and his wife would be very honored to come and do the program. And when Ban Ki-moon arrived with his wife, I learned two things very quickly. The first is this, that I don't envy that man's schedule. Do you know that that man, that role during times like the World Economic Forum, that man's life is divided into 3-minute segments. His whole day is divided into 3-minute segments, and he was able to give us 6 3-minutes of his life. But I also began to realize that Ban Ki-moon didn't always know where he was going, right? He gets in a car, a convoy of other black cars, a lady with an iPad says, sir, here's the next event. Say this, don't say this, call him Highness, Her Excellency, la la la. So Ban Ki-moon stumbled out in this politically correct bubble, and I realized that this dear, sweet man, he thought that he was coming to a talk, a lecture about refugees. And so Ban Ki-moon walks into our simulation, and our simulation isn't set anywhere. It's not set in one country. But when you walk in, it feels a little bit like the Syrian or Afghani context. There's carpets on the wall, carpets on the floor. Our cast, it's full costume, full set, full sound. And Ban Ki-moon walked in with his entourage. And he's sitting there in this room, and when he walks in, a village leader is standing there in front of Ban Ki-moon and his team saying, please, my people, you must be careful. The rebels are coming, you must get to the border, because if you stay here, you will die. You must flee now, you must go. And while this is happening, I kid you not, grenades roll into the room. We have a massive explosion. The power is cut, and in the darkness, 10 soldiers burst into the room, full uniform, weapon, balaclavas, flashlights, screaming, down, down, down! And Ban Ki-moon just throws himself on the ground. And you know, I was really glad. We had 3 security details come through to make sure our guns weren't going to gun him and our bombs weren't going to bomb him. But even so, during the burst-in, his personal bodyguard is with him at the whole time, a lovely Tajik man. And you can see from the photos that as the soldiers, my soldiers come in, his bodyguard is standing holding his actual weapon right in his coat. And I'm so glad that he didn't take down my soldiers, because my soldiers are my IT guy, my plumber, my maintenance man. And the UN, yeah, it's cool. But the UN said to us, they said, this is very powerful. Could you bring this for many years? And my friends, I don't understand why. But for the last 10 years, we've had the privilege every single year of being there. And we've watched thousands and thousands and thousands of these leaders go through. The head of Skype and Wikipedia and HP and TNT and UPS and kings and queens and billionaires. But you know the thing I love most is I love watching change. I love watching these people go through these programs and say to me, I can't just talk anymore. I got to serve. And I'm watching large social media institutions that you would have on your phone. I'm watching them start new programs with the United Nations because they went through this. 500,000 farmers' lives are different because people went through these programs. Syrian kids are in schools because people went through these programs. The world of companies are changing. People are leaving their jobs. And ladies and gentlemen, why are we here? Because this world's got to change. The world must change. You know, I had the privilege of going to lots of leadership things when I was growing up. But unlike this thing that you're here today, unlike this thing, the leadership things that I went to, they were talking more about position. But you know what I began to realize and what I love is that leadership is not actually about a position. It's less about a position, it's more about a direction. Where are you heading? And you know, the beautiful thing I love about direction is this, that you don't need a position to have direction. I can start walking now. And if I am walking towards something that matters, something of purpose, something of meaning, I will find that there are people coming. And I may result in being a leader, or if not, I will be a leader on my own. But I am going towards something that matters. And my friends, the models that have brought this world to where it is today, these are not the models that we necessarily must be replicating. I love superheroes. I have a big love for superheroes. One day when I grow up, I'm going to be Captain America. But you know the thing that I dislike about superheroes is I love them and I hate them because I love what they stand for and I hate the myth around them. I love that superheroes want to fight for what's right, stand up for what's good, fight against injustice. That's what I want my life to be. But what I hate is that it doesn't work that way in life. Superheroes are not just one-man bands that go out and change the world. That's not what a real superhero looks like. I've met them. I've met real superheroes, but they don't look like those guys. Do you know superheroes in the movies, all of them wear their undies on the outside. And that's wrong. I don't know why that's there. But the superheroes I've met in real life, you know where they wear their undies? Well, hopefully the same as you. Yeah. There's a lady that you know, a superhero that you know of, sweet lady, her name is Agnes, you know her. Agnes was 18 and she was teaching because Agnes was a teacher. It's the thing, they do it. But the problem was Agnes's classroom had a window, and so she occasionally would look out this window, and down there on the street, down from the classroom, she saw there was an old dude, and this dude had issues. The issues this dude had is that he was too sick to care for himself, but he didn't have anyone else to care for him. And so dear Agnes didn't know what to do, and so what she did is she went and she got soup, because she had her lunch, and she gave it to this old man. And the old man ate the soup. But then Agnes began to believe, Agnes began to look at this situation. As she walked around, she realized that he was not alone. There were other people like that. And eventually the needs grew so overwhelming that Agnes went to her principal and she said, "Sir, I can't teach anymore. I gotta do something more." So Agnes quit teaching. She opened a room. She brought all these old, sick, dying people in, and her name was changed from Agnes to Teresa. And dear Mother Teresa, she started her work with less money than you have in your pockets today. And guess where she wore her underpants? She did. I know another superhero. Oh my goodness, if you ever meet him, this kid puts me to shame. I'm embarrassed. This kid, I met him in Shanghai 5 years ago. He was 9 years old. His name was Ian. If you ever meet a 9-year-old kid called Ian, run away. They're terrifying. I met this kid called Ian, and the challenge with this dear boy Ian is that he grew up in an international school and he had friends all over the world, but one of them emailed his mom, and here's what it said. The email said, "Please tell the kids in Ian's school that they're lucky. Because in my country," this man came from Liberia. He said, "In my country, most Liberian kids will never get to travel overseas. In fact, most Liberian kids will never even get to see a playground. So tell the kids in Ian's school they're lucky." Mom, tell me, what must I do to give the children of that nation a playground? And the mom is thinking to herself, she's like, dude, you're friggin' 9. But she didn't say that. She said, son, what do you want to do? He said, Mom, I want to give them a playground. What do I need? And the mom said, honey, land. You got to stick a playground somewhere. You need land. So this 9-year-old, highly under-resourced kid went to Google. And he buying land in Liberia. And he learned what you'd learn is that you can't. You cannot buy Liberian soil if you're not Liberian. And this little 9-year-old kid suspected that he was not Liberian. So he went back to his mom. He said, Mom, I can't buy land, so tell me, Mom, who has land? And the mom said, honey, the government must have land. So this kid returned to Google. He did another Google search, government of Liberia, and then he did this image search. He saw lots of photos of senators, but one woman, one senator, the same woman in every photo was always smiling. And Ian said to me, he said, she had a really nice face, so I thought I'd email her. So Ian writes this email. Dear Senator, my name is Ian. I'm 9. I wish to give the children of your nation a playground, but I can't buy land. Could you please give me land? Ian sent the email. He went to sleep. He woke up, and the lady had written back, Dear Ian, thank you for what you wish to do for the children of our nation. Yes, I'd be honored to give you 2 soccer fields. This 9-year-old kid, he is now the proud owner of 2 stinking acres in Liberia, but he still doesn't have a playground, right? So he goes to Google, he types again, playground for kids in Africa, found a company I didn't know existed. They take old playgrounds, they fix them, they ship them to people in need, and then send a team to build them. He's like, 4. He saw a phone number. He remembered his mom could use Skype to Skype out, so he Skypes out, and the CEO answers. 9-year-old Ian's on the Skype. Hi, I'm Ian. Hi, I'm 9. I want to give these kids in Liberia a playground. Can you give me a playground? And the CEO looked at him and said, no. No, it doesn't work that way. I mean, no, I can't. But I'll give you some options. You choose one and we'll see if you can afford it. So Ian and his best friend Sam, they trolled through all of them. They found the best playground they could. They said, sir, that's it. How much to ship it and send your team? And the man said, son, that's big. It's the biggest playground we have. It's 50,000 US plus 9,000 US for food we stick in the container. 59,000 US dollars. You know what this 9-year-old kid said? He went back to the CEO. He said, well, okay. And he told his primary 3 teacher, this is what I'm going to do. He told his classmates, this is what I'm going to do. He told the parents of his friends, and then 4th grade heard, then 2nd, then 5th grade, then 1st grade. 4 months later, the playground was in Liberia. Ian, Sam, and their moms were at the opening celebration. The smiling government woman, there. The vice president of the country is there. Yeah. The smiling lady is there. The vice president of the country is there. 2,000 kids are there, and a plan was there now to make playgrounds all over Liberia. And Ian is now building schools and medical clinics, and he's 14 years old. He's 14. And I have seen hundreds of thousands of people go through our experiential programs, hundreds of thousands. And at the beginning, do you know what everyone said to me? They said, sir, I want to help. I want to make a difference, but I'm not big enough. I don't feel big enough. I'm just me. I'm just a student. I'm just a teacher. I'm just a dentist, a doctor, a banker. I'm not big enough to make a difference. So I went bigger. I went to law firms and banking firms, and they went through these programs, and they said, son, we want to make a difference, but on our own, we're not big enough. We don't feel big enough to make a difference. And I kept going until I had billionaires sitting on the ground doing these simulations. And if you know them, you know billionaires always speak in this kind of quiet, billionaire kind of way. And I had these billionaires coming up to me saying, son, I really want to make a difference, but on my own, I don't feel big enough. And everywhere I went, people did not feel big enough to make a difference. And then I looked back at this 9-year-old kid who I think remembered something that we'd missed. That maybe that's not the right question. Maybe the question isn't, do you feel big enough? Maybe the question is just this, well, who then are you? Who are you? What skills have you been given? What resources are around you? What needs rest deep in your soul? And how, as you, can you begin to respond? Ian led. Ian was not a CEO, but Ian led. And the world was changed because one young 9-year-old boy began to walk in a direction that he knew that was right. Do not ever let anyone tell you that you are too small to make a difference. Most of all, your own soul. you and I, we are small. Because that kind of image of superheroes is a myth. But what Ian was a superhero. And he began to realize that it's small does not mean you can't change the world. Small means you are part of something much bigger. And you use who you are to do your part, and others do their part. And that's where we begin to see the change of this world at scale occur. I love sunsets and sunrises. But I particularly love the beach. Because when I stand at the beach and I gaze at the sun, do you know what I love? Is that there is a path that goes right from that sun to my footsteps. But do you know what blesses me? Is right beside me on my left and right, friends can be standing there. And they see that same sun, that same fiery ball of passion, but the path goes differently to their feet. And the beautiful thing is that we can have a synergy around that passion, but that our individual paths are different. And so when I say to you what I said at the beginning, thank you for being here, it was not just a token phrase. But do you know what matters? What matters is what do we do next? And I urge you just with one caution, which is this: be careful. Be careful of those doors. Because in just a few days' time, this precious conference will be over. You will exit through those doors and you will go board an airplane. And what's going to be before you? Homework, assignments, emails, busyness, friends, applications, all of those kinds of things. And I urge you only this: please fight. Fight to take time, because the world will force you to be busy. That's a given. But the world will not force you to live intentionally. That's a decision. And so may we reflect on who we are. May we even carve out time this evening or over these days so that we can apply. You know, in English we say people learn by experience, but it's not always true. The way we learn best is we go through, reflect on, apply in our lives, and then our lives are different in response. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to this conference. Thank you for the heart that burns and yearns in you to see this world changed. But above all, ladies and gentlemen, I know on behalf of Kim and me, I say thank you for rising. Thank you for rising and for walking out these doors at the end of this onto the plane, because it is not in one small room in Bangkok that the world must be changed. It's in the 87 different countries that you represent. That's where this change must occur and beyond. So may this be a success, because the world needs it to be so. Thank you.
Why we don't have delegate to deliver our issues? Is it fair? Do the global organization really deliver their message properly? You know?
Can I ask?
I know everyone here has a goal to achieve, and I'm one of you guys, and I work desperately to help people through my discipline, but I can't do more than you can guys through your power or potential you can receive from the whole world. So yeah, I just hope to.
Can I just say to this dear lady, her pain is mirrored by more than 68 million who are displaced. Those numbers are not all, as you know, they're not all Syrian. But that pain, this morning in the car, I was talking about Syrian refugees. Last night, I leave tonight to go and work on things for refugees. This burns within my soul. But the reality is that the situation is so big. It is bigger than any government can solve on their own. It is bigger than any country or company can solve, but it is not bigger than all of us. And the thing that we need to be doing is we need to be looking in our sectors for ways that we can help Syrian refugees, just even Syrians alone. If you are not allowed to work in a country, right? If you're not allowed to work in Lebanon, if you're not allowed to work in Jordan, what will that do to you? What kind of future is there? Mental health this morning, one of the greatest forgotten areas for displaced people, for refugees, is mental health. Do you know the trauma that people have gone through? Are you going into counseling? Awesome. But use that too, because we need to be looking, because this lady's pain is right, and this lady happens to be here, and she can cry with us here. But there are so many tears that this world does not see and hear. But we have a way that we can respond, both as me and my part, and you and yours. What's your name? Elsie? Thank you for this. Can we give this lady a round of applause for that
My question is, I came here to hear positive things. I came here to see and to know more cultures. And I'm sure that many of you guys are doing a lot of projects. I'm sure that everyone has the different goals, but has to be in collaboration. Could you teach us how we can share our ideas and how we can work together to really make an impact? It's not locally, it's not Australia, it's not Syria, it's not Colombia, it's many parts of the world, it's different problems. Could you teach us how we can really be a team and go into this boat and be leaders of change? Thank you so much.
I don't have the simple solution to do that, but I have two thoughts. The first is humility. Just recognize that we have all been given the opportunities that are before us now. Yes, you've worked hard and studied, but actually we have been given them. And we, just because we have them, these opportunities, it doesn't make us wiser in the face of need. It doesn't make us the sole provider of solutions. And I think the heart of humility is so critical in being able to be open. I was reading a British military manual, and it was saying that pride brings inflexibility, but humility brings nimbleness. You're able to grow and learn because you're open. But the second thing that I would say to you is this. Sometimes we think that the only way to respond is to do it ourselves. We think we have to do something, reinvent the wheel. But very often for Crossroads, we have this recognition that we can only do our part. And if the first thing that we can do is look out and say, who else is out there serving? What else are they doing? And we are better together, and let us work. And I just would say this also. I don't know how to say this succinctly. But I would say also to you this: ask the poor that you're serving what their real needs are. Do you know, so often our service is driven by assumptions. But when you go, do you know who the experts of poverty are? The poor. Do you know who knows the best about where refugees feel pain? Those who are displaced. Do you know her country, one of the largest populations of internally displaced people in the world, is in Colombia, and yet no one almost reads about it. And so let us, in humility, be looking for ways that we can work with each other and not assume that we know the best way, but in humility approach it, look for others, and then where we can, partner, because it's in that we'll have scale. Them being them, us being us, that's where we'll see it. So it's that stance that I love. So thank you, Andrea.
Andrea,
Yeah.
and before that, I want to just know who is now doing some project, who is now doing or have idea. I want to know who is there, because we can start now, and we can have to know who are they, and bring that together. Yeah. And I would love to know that project. I have been looking for that, and I found couples. They know.
You have 1,047 projects that are about to come to you.
That is great, and this is the best platform to start. It is. And I really want to know that. Let's have a shot.
Do it. And I think
and
the US, and I think that this summit, just say this, that this summit also has groups within the WhatsApp that I think people can be posting stuff onto. And there are even people here, I think, that have platforms that share ideas. Absolutely. So we need to connect to Andrea Mayorga. All right. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you so much.
My question to you is, in your experience simulation room, will you incorporate more local issues such as the subdivided flats or some rooftop slums? Because I believe that many international school students are very aware of what is going on globally, but not locally like myself. And if tourists go, I think it's also important to share some local issues as well. Yeah. So could you tell me some more about that, please?
Sure. I'm happy to chat further, but the short answer is we do. We do. And very often it depends on the audience in the room and who they are. Many Hong Kong charities use our simulations that look at global issues, and then we apply it to Hong Kong. So we do a separate debrief, which is just about Hong Kong. And for me, what I love is this. I've had a lot of people in poverty go through these simulations on poverty, but the feelings, they're the same. And now you get a tiny taste of what it's like for me. And so for us, we care about those in need locally and globally. We care about the asylum seekers in Hong Kong as well as the asylum seekers in Sydney. And so for us, it is both that we reach for. There are more groups in Hong Kong that are serving poverty than just us, and that's actually their primary job. So we often partner with them more in that. But the answer is yes to all.
So can you try to reinforce more if international schools want to use your service? Can you try to reinforce and suggest more to them to experience more local experiences as well? Because that's what I'm looking for.
I do so many of those programs every year that do just that, and you'd be welcome to be a part of it and or to encourage other friends, because I agree with you. It's both. Thank you.
What was it that made that lady initially call your family to help 2 million people?
I think there's several things that would be there. One, as I mentioned to you, was that sense in my heart that I think's in your heart too, that it wasn't okay and that we needed to respond. And that was one that I think we had not been aware of. We were living a comfortable life, and as the needs became clear, so too did the urgency for us to respond. I know our own value system, our faith in these things would also have motivated us to not sit idly and say, my life is just about earning money. My life is about more than that. And my life matters to do things more than just earning money. And I know that, and I believe that. And so I try, and I want to serve and live that. But I would say above all for me too, well, including those things, is this joy of the conviction. Do you know what I think the world says to all of us? Is the world says to us, no, you can't. You can't. And do you know when Obama first rose to power, so to speak, what I loved was his campaign. The refrain was this, it was, yes, we can. And he didn't say what it was we could do. But I think that phrase echoed in our souls because we also wanted to believe and actually believe that it's true, that we can make a difference, we can do something. And for me also, that was part of that conviction. It was slow seeds at the beginning, but that growing, yes, we can. And then the joy, you know it, don't you? The joy of when you begin serving and you're like, what? I can be used to help make a difference? And then you want to keep going, and it doesn't make you perfect or your work perfect, but dang, you're not going to want to stop if you can help it. And so I would say it would be those things that help fire that work.
How do you at Crossroads, and how can we, as people who want to affect positive change, encourage charitable giving in the face of growing apathy and helplessness?
I wish you could have included about 20 other things in that because that was so long and full and rich and everything. No, I'm kidding you. It was brilliant. I grew up in my early years in the Philippines, and can I say something for any of us, or any of you who spent time in slums? You know this. Slums are definitely not all bad. There's a lot of good stuff in slums. There's a lot of, you know what I loved about the slums in the Philippines was the counterintuitive presence of joy. I often found so much joy in slums. And do you know, when I first moved to Hong Kong, I was 11, and I saw that everyone had food and housing and transportation. This is what I thought. I thought, these must be the happiest people in the whole world. That's what I thought. And the thing that has struck me is that I think sometimes where as a planet we put our emphasis and values, it's not always aligned with those things that bring joy. And I have found certainly that as a lot of people have served alongside us, joy has grown, not because they got more money. Actually, they had less money, but they had something deeper. But secondly, you ask this question, in a world of apathy, how do we help people to engage and act? A little bit similar to how do I help people to do things? And if I could share one lesson with you that I wish, if I could talk to myself when I was younger, it's like 16, if I could talk to myself when I was younger, I would say this. Remember this, that statistics do not always change behavior. I can show you 1,000 statistics today on poverty or refugees, and you'd know them, but that's it. But if I want to help you to engage in a sustained way, I must help you care. I must help you care. And we as a world, we need to find ways to make the world, help the world care. The simulations seem to be one way. There's many ways it can happen. But if we... Do you know if a small girl was walking here and she tripped and fell down the stairs, all of us, in fact, falling down the stairs is an awkward thing to mention. But let's just say a small girl was walking and fell down the stairs, all of us would instinctively get up and try and help. We're not doctors, but the empathy was there and we wanted to act. And when people begin to care, it's amazing. Almost instinctively, their hands want to reach out. But empathy doesn't guarantee strategy. Empathy only guarantees a good heart, or good intentions. And so then once you've helped people care, then you need to help them find strategic ways that their hands can connect to that action. Thank you.
So what do you think we can do as like young emerging world leaders to try to keep that spark alive, and like children especially, before it dies out?
There are some forest fires in the US and in Australia and other places that no amount of man's effort can put out. It is a raging blaze. But you will know this, that at its onset, every single fire is fragile. I love camping, I love outside stuff, it's my thing. When you want to start a fire, you got a little pyramid of bricks and you got your tinder and kindling and all those things there, and you're trying to flick sparks into that. It is so fragile. It is so fragile to get that thing there. But once the leaf is lit, then you put a few more leaves. And then you put the really thin sticks, and then the thicker sticks, and then the thicker sticks, and then you can put your big fuel wood on. And then that fire will fight off snow, it will fight off animals, it will do all sorts of things. But she is fragile, and the way it goes from fragile to scale is iteration. It's gentle steps of success. And I think when you look at little kids' eyes, like Ian, you could say to me that Ian is naive. He didn't know that he couldn't change the world. And maybe that's why he commenced on it. But you know what happened with Ian was that spark caught a stick. What about a school? What about a medical clinic? And very often we find that sometimes, like campers everywhere, that the sparks won't stick. And sometimes you give up there. But I think what we need to do is to help people find small wins. And then slowly as those wins increase, just small wins, they begin to see that there's more that they can put on. And then they begin to dream differently. They see things differently, themselves and this world. Amongst all these social world changers, what was common? And he said this. He said it wasn't race, creed, religion, age, education, status, but what was common was this. There was a point in their life, maybe when they were younger, when they were faced with a very large challenge. He said they were given the tools to see that challenge addressed. And he said it's like a switch flipped in their minds from thinking the world was fixed to believing the world was changeable. And then as they walked forward with that conviction, as their hands grew, so too did the actions that they embarked on. And so we need to help small wins occur and slowly build people up so that they can have that sense of the switch flipping. And I hope this. I hope that my life and your life never crush anyone else's fires. Because it's so easy for me to look at somebody and laugh or snicker. But this world needs people who will come alongside and add wind and add tinder and add all of those little kindling bits to make other people's fires shine too. What's your name?
Catherine.
Catherine, thank you for that question.
Thank you.
I'm afraid we need to end here, according to this lovely lady's wonderful schedule, because otherwise you may die of starvation, I think. So what I'll say is this. I will be around for a little while. I have to head off shortly, I'm afraid, not because I don't love you. I do, a lot, especially one hay. But I need to head off, and it's really exciting because I am heading to Istanbul. Because in Turkey, there are 3.5 million refugees, and some people in Turkey have come to us and said there are many refugees in Turkey, but there's not a lot of unity between the Syrians and the Turks. And they're asking us to help them build our refugee simulation in Turkish, in Istanbul, so that there will be more empathy towards the Syrian refugees. So that's why I'm leaving you. It's not because you're not beautiful, but it is because there are other things that you and I both have to do to see this world change. So thank you again.
Thank you.